Usain Bolt is one of the top people in the world. You take away money. Somebody who works for this country, who gave his all. I like patriots. When I signed up for the army, I did it voluntarily. As I tell people, I'll still take up arms for this country if needs be. That's how I love that country. No,
for one thing, I representing a man for Uptown TV. You understand?
King Charles was being booed as he toured Middlesbrough, England. And the people of England gathered as he walked about, and they had their placards. And some of the placards read, "Down with the crown, not my king." This was coming from the British crowds. And here in Jamaica, at the opening of Parliament, the Deputy Governor General, Stedman Fuller, steadfastly pledged allegiance to the said Charles III. And the parliamentary clerk voiced the consensual parliamentary petition, "God save the King." And at the same time, this very same king was being booed by the people of England, and they were shouting, "Not my king," and "Down with the crown." What an irony. What an irony. We're watching what's happening with the living sprint legend Usain St. Leo Bolt. For development, our mission includes breaking the cycle of mental control, blazing new paths towards Africa's rendezvous with destiny, bearing witness, demanding change, understanding what it means to bear witness, being the change that we want to see, crafting an African-centered agenda for change and development, all the while honoring my moral obligation to remember.
Reuniting the African family for development.
Going to be going to the phone lines now to speak with my very first guest, director, curator of the Jamaica Music Museum. Interesting. Why am I not getting... Okay, let's do this. All right, yes. Herbie Miller, director, curator of the Jamaica Music Museum. Then switch things up on me, Herbie. Morning.
Morning.
Greetings.
How you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
So far, so good. Tired, but you know.
Yes, I can just imagine. And up early
so
again. For Aluta continua abitura is certain. Victory is certain. Yeah. All right. So Herbie, Groundation, it's been on for 2 weeks now. We're coming in the middle of all of this. But Groundation, how many years?
13.
13 years.
We started 2 years when we had to do it virtually, but 13 years.
Mm-hmm. And that was during the lockdown, eh?
Precisely.
Yeah. And quickly tell us what has gone on before you tell us what's gone. For our listeners who do not know, what is Groundation?
Well, in its original form, it's a gathering of brethren. In my case, in East Kingston, Worker Hill Community, Rennock Lodge. Not that I was there, but that the path may have to get up to the hill. Where, people, Rastafarians would get together, reasoning, and, some food has to be there, the sacrament had to be there, and the drums and chants and so on. That's where I first met Dizzy Johnny Moore, the great trumpeter. Mm-hmm. But others such as Tommy McCook, etc., would all pass through making music with the drummers and the horns and the dancers. Persian the Cat was a great dancer among them. Mm-hmm. And of course, quite a number of ladies were there who made a great contribution, who's not as recognized as the brethren are. However, if you read Dougie Mack's little book on Rastafari, you'll see him naming them all, including the lady he married to.
Yes. And
so the extension of it now is what I have done in our time at the Institute of Jamaica, where I bring that same method of reasoning and participating in eatings and refreshment and music in the Institute of Jamaica under the Jamaica Music Museum's production
And it also has echoes of Walter Rodney, doesn't it?
Most definitely.
Yeah, groundings.
Marcus Garvey, whose teachings I follow.
Yes.
Especially when he says, in whatever you do, and you saw them invoke that a minute ago, whatever you do, in Garvey said, do it for the uplift of the race.
Yes.
And we might just extend to say for the uplift of humanity in general.
So let me go now to what has gone. So 2 weeks already gone. Quickly take us to those 2 weeks, and then to what's coming up today.
The first week we had hoped to have Prime Minister Mia Mottley in person. However, due to heavy commitments, she eventually said she would make a recording, and we'd use that, which we did. She made a very powerful contribution in week 1. It circulated on social media, and I know we've gotten a lot of feedback on what she has said. What she left us with is that musicians and artists should approach their craft with a positive vibration and uplift the people, as Marcus Garvey suggests, and get out of the sort of negative thing that too many of the artists have got themselves into. Week 2, and by the way, her presentation was called "So Much Trouble in the World. What We Need Is Love."
And then week 2, which was last week.
Yes, I had the opportunity.
Okay.
And it was called "Music Gonna Teach Them One Lesson: Bob Marley's Music as Historical and Educational Narrative."
Yes.
And my presentation was called "Sounds of Plantocracy, Slavery and Freedom in the Music of Bob Marley."
Can just imagine that. I'd like to hear that. And then today
it's One Love. Marley's devotion to the social and spiritual harmony of humanity. A session that will examine Bob's vision for one love and his commitment to humanity's social and spiritual harmony. We have cultural anthropologist Dr. Amani Tafarai Amma moderating a session which will include Deacon Peter Espute, Dr. Jelani Naya, and the Reverend Bertrand Gale.
Yes.
An Anglican with an Africanist point of view.
We're going to be talking about the Church of England this morning in a few minutes. All right.
And keep in mind
that
in his initial day, this gentleman, this decent little boy who came from St. Anne, in his jacket and necktie, was going to church singing, "The Lord will make a way somehow. Thank you for what you have done for me." And a transitional period through Mortimer Plano had him now singing "Hail Selassie is the Chapel" and just sing, to eventually go right back to the Orthodox angle of the Rastafari, amongst Rastafari, the Orthodox Church.
So One Love, Marley's devotion to the social and spiritual harmony of humanity. And once again, Dr. Jelani Naya, Reverend Bertram Gale, Deacon Peter Espute, moderated by our sister, Dr. Imani Tafari. Amma, what time?
It's at 2 p.m.
Okay.
And I urge people to come at 1 o'clock and check out the exhibition called African to Jamaican. And that's definitely how we transition through time, and how the music and the instruments and everything, the philosophy, the rituals have gone from what came with us to how we have creolized it into what is us.
All right, so once again, Groundation is on today. This is the penultimate, because next week, Sunday, February 23, will be the final. I know you already have a topic for that, and I'll probably give us more details next week, Sunday.
As long as you have me, I'll do so.
All right. And so the topic for next week is what?
Africa Unite, Marley's vision for a unified Africa.
All right. As usual, Groundation at the Institute of Jamaica. Gates open.
10 to 16, let me run this quick. 10 to 16 East Street, entrance on Torres Street. And starts at 2. Get there early. Check out the exhibition. There'll be some tea and crackers and jams and so on.
Some little snacks.
It starts at 2.
All
then
righty.
sure you'll have a lot of to eat and to drinks.
All right. Thank you so much, Herbie. Take care. We'll talk again next week. All right. I want to tell you a little bit about Professor Gus John before he comes on at 7. Professor Augustine Gus John was born in Grenada and has lived mainly in the United Kingdom since 1964. He was a member of the Campaign Against Racial Discrimination CARD in the middle of to late 1960s, and one of only 2 black members of the Council on the Institute of Race Relations in the early 1970s. He is a scholar activist who has done notable work in the fields of education policy, the role of schooling and education in promoting social justice, school improvement, management and international development. And since the 1960s, he has been active in issues of education and schooling in Britain's inner cities, such as London, Leicester, Birmingham, Manchester, and Glasgow. In 1966, he founded the first black supplementary and Saturday school in Oxford while he was still a student there. And a bit more about Professor Gus John, who's coming on at 7. He was Assistant Education Officer and Head of Community Education in the Inner London Education Authority. And in 1989, he became the first African Director of Education in Britain, a post he held for just under 8 years. Professor John has worked in a number of university settings, including as visiting faculty professor of education at the University of Strathclyde in Glasgow for 10 years. Since 2007, Professor Gus John has been an honorary fellow of the London Centre for Leadership in Learning at the University College Institute of Education. And from 2016 until 2022, he was visiting professor at Coventry University, where he worked with the Vice Chancellor and university leadership team in improving the strategic management of the university and building a culture of equity. Professor Gus John is a respected public speaker. He's a media commentator. He works internationally as an executive coach and a management and social investment consultant. In 1997, he was appointed advisor to the former British Home Secretary Jack Straw on race and social inclusion, and in that capacity worked with civil servants on race relations, the Amendment Act 2000. In 1999, Professor Gus John co-founded the Communities Empowerment Network, CEN, a charitable organization providing advocacy and representation for excluded school students and their parents and carers. He's now its patron. Between 2003 and 2007, he evaluated the Race Equality Policy and Action Plan of every university higher education institute in England, Scotland, and Wales for their respective funding councils. And since then, he has conducted equality audits for a number of universities, including Salford, Northumbria, Brunel, and Cambridge. Professor Gus John, as an area director of community education in Manchester in the early 1980s, introduced a sickle cell screening service run by volunteer consultant physicians at the Moss Side Community Education Centre and supported the development of sickle cell anemia research in Manchester. Professor John serves as an expert witness in the Special Educational Needs and Disabilities Tribunal and the Special Immigration Appeals Tribunal. In the Special Immigration Appeals Tribunal, he advises the court on the capacity of available special education needs provision in countries to which children with statements of special education needs and disabilities and latterly education, health and care plans are destined for deportation, to ensure that the human rights of such children would not be compromised or unlawfully denied by expelling them from the UK. So far, he has managed to get deportation orders overturned in respect of 4 families, all Jamaican, whose children's human rights would have been denied by being made to leave Britain with their parents. So since 2006, Professor Gus John has been a member of the Africa Union's Technical Committee of Experts working on modalities for reunifying Africa and its global diaspora as part of its 6th region initiative. He has advised member states in Africa and the Caribbean on meeting the sustainable development goals related to education and youth. And in 2016, he was named as one of the 30 most influential African diaspora leaders globally. A lot to say about Professor Gus John, and that's one of the reasons.
Running African, reuniting the African family for development.
My bad, pardon. So a lot to say about Professor Gus John, and that's one of the reasons why I took some time out early before we linked with him so that I introduced him properly to the space. I've spoken to him before, but not on this program. So it's going to be the first time that I'm interviewing him inside of the Africa Forum, and that is why I'm properly introducing Professor Gus John to you. And next time when he comes on, you already know who he is. So, Professor Gus John submitted evidence to the Cross-Party Parliamentary Commission on Youth Violence in the UK, calling for, among other things, an end to school exclusions and a less punitive approach to children's infractions. In August 2018, he delivered the keynote address, Choices of the Living and the Dead, to open the annual conference of the Archives and Records Association. And in 2018, he delivered an address on the challenges of decolonizing the curriculum at a Black History Month symposium organized by Coventry University Students' Union. Also, in October 2018, he delivered a public lecture at Warwick University on the relevance of Black History Month to higher education and the growing movement to decolonize the curriculum. In 2016, Professor John joined the Committee for Minority Ethnic Anglican Concerns, a subcommittee of the Archbishop Councils of the Church of England, as a voluntary consultant and advisor. He resigned in 2019 in protest at the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justine Welby's mindless support for Zionism and the chief rabbi's media onslaught on the then leader of the Labour Party, the socialist Jeremy Corbyn MP. In February 2024, Professor John wrote a blog entitled His Grace is a Disgrace, in which he called out Justin Welby for cancelling a planned meeting with the pastor of the Christmas Evangelical Lutheran Church in Bethlehem, Pastor Munzer Isaac. Isaac, who has been highly critical of Israel in Gaza, saw his Christmas sermon in 2023 go viral when he said, and I quote, "If Jesus Christ was born today, it would have been under the rubble," end of quote. He was speaking at a Palestinian Solidarity Campaign rally on February 17, 2024, where Jeremy Corbyn was also a speaker after being invited by the Palestinian ambassador to the UK, Hussam Zomlot. In October 2024, Professor John presented evidence on policing and race as an expert witness at the Sheku Bayo public inquiry into the police killing of Mr. Bayo in Kirkcaldy, Fife, in 2015. In 2023, Professor John published 2 books titled Blazing Trails, Stories of a Heroic Generation, with a preface by Margaret Busby, and Don't Salvage the Empire Windrush, with a preface by Professor William Les Henry, both published by New Beacon Books out of London. So there you have it. A little bit, not everything, about Professor Gus John. He is one of those persons who also denied one of the MBE or OBE or one of those BEs from the British Empire when he was offered it. He said, my work has been as it is, and to accept this is to betray myself, my work, my people. So much about this humble elder, Professor Gus John, born in Grenada in 1945, Associate Professor of Education and Honorary Fellow of the Institute of Education, University of London, and Director of Gus John Consultancy Limited. He'll be coming on at 7 o'clock in just 3 minutes' time. We'll be going to the phone lines to speak with Professor Gus John. Prof, are you there?
Good morning. Yes, I am here.
Good morning. Hearing you loud and clear. I know it's just about afternoon in the UK where you are.
Right.
But thank you so much. All right. So earlier, thank you. Let me just say thank you for making the time to come on this morning and talk to us about this important topic.
It's my pleasure.
Yes. And so earlier I went through a little bit of your bio, a little bit of your background to introduce you to the IRFM's audience, our listeners. So
Right.
all of that is out of the way. I want to start at one of the latest, because we'll work our way back to the Church of England. But to start with what's happening with the Church of England today in Britain, because they just wrapped up a synod, right? Can you tell us what from your perspective, what are some of the important things to come out, if anything, out of the synod?
Well, I mean, as you can imagine, the synod considers a whole heap of stuff to do with the governance of the church, yes?
Yes.
This time, foremost in people's minds was the issue of safeguarding, and particularly the evil practices of sexual predators amongst clergy. Okay?
Yes. So,
the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, resigned at the end of January. Not his successor, they're still appointing that, but the person acting up as Archbishop now is the Archbishop of York, Stephen Cottrell.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he's got all kinds of question marks behind his own name because he has twice, involving two different individuals, promoted people who had complaints of sexual misconduct against them. And I think it is fair to say, and not even bishops in the church themselves would deny this, that the victims have been failed because those in the hierarchy of the church have been more concerned about preserving its reputation than about justice for the victims of such sexual abuse. So that featured pretty highly in this week's synod at Westminster here in London. And what people were looking for was some determination as to whether the church itself has the capacity to handle these matters internally without them being adjudicated by an independent external body of people, external to the church. The latter was proposed. The church collectively opposed that, and they are going to depend pretty much on the same processes they operated before, which failed to stem that kind of misconduct amongst clergy.
Okay. You have been, thank you for that, Professor. You have been writing about and to quote your last article, January 2025, 9th of January, complicity in criminality, the rudderless church. You have talked about His Grace falling from grace and charging the Church of England with corporate manslaughter, etc. And I want to come to that. But first, to put things in a bit of a historical context, if you will. And, and to look at the Church of England's involvement, because, and let me just say once again, that we're looking at the Church of England and the British monarchy, even as we talk about righting historical wrongs. But the Church of England's involvement in the transatlantic trade in Africans, or the transatlantic slave trade, as many know it as.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about that complicity.
Indeed, I mean, absolutely. You know, we, the descendants of enslaved Africans, have got a particular angle on this, which I don't think many people across the Anglican communion globally actually share. And it is precisely what you've said.
Yes.
We know that the Bible traveled with enslavers, okay? Mm-hmm. The church, the established church, not only gave absolution to those who were enslaving and dehumanizing African people, our ancestors, they themselves were involved in owning enslaved people. Mm-hmm. I mean, the church itself had thousands of enslaved Africans and made a lot of money from that trade. So all of these wonderful edifices you see around the place, all of these lofty cathedrals and God knows what, they're dripping with the blood of our ancestors. Mm-hmm. And in that regard, the church knew that they were condoning, in fact, indulging themselves in the savagery that characterized and brutalization, dehumanization that characterized African enslavement. So you are quite right.
Yes, and
to want to place that in the wider political context.
Of course, and when you look at, for example, this is. Let me just talk about a book that I need our listeners to get a hold of. It's a book that we read in our Africa Forum book club, the Running African Book Club, a few years ago. But I want to bring it to the fore again for listeners. Britain's Black Debt by Hilary Beckles. Reparations for Caribbean Slavery and the Native Genocide. It is a must read. You know, there are a few chapters there, and one in particular, I think it's chapter 8 or 7, that deals extensively with the complicity of the church in slavery, as you're saying, Professor Gus John. But what do you know, and can you tell us about historically the Church of England's Society for the Propagation of the Gospel in Foreign Parts, and how they contributed to the the propagation of the gospel? I said that with a straight face, Bob.
No, my sister, pure evil.
Yes.
No, I mean, wow. I'm not being flippant now.
No, I know.
I am, what I'm saying is this, and I mean, Hilary Beckles covers that very well in his book. You see, the justification that the church, the British state, and indeed the Europeans did for the bestial abuse of Africans was that we were not fully human. Okay, mm-hmm. So there was one can't look at that history without understanding the origins and development of eugenics within British intelligentsia, for example. Mm-hmm. There were these biologically racist arguments that people were making, and many of them looked to the Bible and the Gospel to underpin these theories. Mm-hmm. So, in other words, what I'm saying is that three things were running in tandem. On the one hand, you had the domination of imperialism and colonialism, the force used to subdue people and to superimpose values and beliefs, etc., which were defined as superior. In other words, those people who were committing such evil were actually telling African people Native Americans, Indians, etc., that their own tried and tested practices that had governed their societies for centuries were primitive, backward, more aligned to the devil and all of that nonsense, and that what they're bringing was superior. Meanwhile, they're committing genocide, mass murders, eliminating whole populations, and the rest of it. So the role of the Bible, the role of Christianity in riding with imperialism and enslavement and all of that stuff is what has brought us to where we are right now. And I mean, we'll come on to the present situation in a minute. Yeah. But I just want to say this, that we have to remember one thing, if nothing else, and that word is erasure. The way in which all of that colonialist and imperialist domination resulted in subjugation of people, the erasure of the belief systems, the erasure of the traditional practices that knitted the communities together. Whatever people might want to say about it, and more than that, they produce systems of governance which were based much on more human considerations than anything that came out of the West.
Why was it, to back a bit, why was it so important for the Bible to be used, which is what the Church of England used, and why was it so important for this to be done to ensure that there was a buy-in from the wider public, the UK public, whether it's a monarchy, businesses, whoever, and they were all wicked alike. But why was it so important for the Bible to be involved in dehumanizing Africans? What was the importance here?
Well, the importance is this. If you consider yourself to be a Christian country, and if you can manipulate the gospel even, so that people begin to think that anything that existed before Christ came was not geared towards salvation, right? I mean, many people think that of Judaism, for example. Anything that existed before Christ could be seen as primitive, as take for example the issue of blood sacrifice.
Yes.
The Old Testament talks about that. You know the story of Isaac and the ram and all of that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Right. But then where the African communities around the world, whether they be Yoruba following the Ifa tradition or not, where they use animals to make offerings to deities, they considered to be primitive. It is considered to be obeah, and okay, there's nothing wrong with obeah. Is the spin that the colonialists have actually put upon that as a belief and a practice. So people decry blood offerings to deities. They decry the idea that you should have more than one deity. In other words, the monotheistic religions of Judaism and Islam and Christianity are considered to be that's all that is actually allowed. Everything else is supposed to be primitive and devilish and the rest of it. It simply does not make sense.
So what I'm hearing you saying, Prof, is that first dehumanize the African. The African had to be less than human.
Yes.
To be enslaved and to be treated in the kind of way that they were treated, that our ancestors were treated by Britain, and in particular by the Church of England and the monarchy. I want to take a quick break and come back just before we move into what's happening now, to talk about how the church viewed August John. We are talking about righting historical wrongs, the Church of England and the British monarchy, even against the background of Jamaica's push, and we heard this in Parliament on Thursday, for republicanism. This is causing quite a stir on the island here, Prof. But how did the church's view of enslaved people influence the treatment of enslaved people by the church itself? And talk to us about the involvement of the bishops in all of this.
Well, there are 26 dioceses in England. Each has a diocesan bishop, and they're assisted by auxiliaries and all sorts of people of lower ranks, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And the Archbishop of Canterbury, as you know, sits at the apex of all of this and is responsible for the African communion globally, in the same way that the Pope is responsible for Roman Catholicism. Yeah. And it is the church as the established religious body. I mean, we can talk some more about that in a minute, because there is evidence now that it has lost that standing because so many people just don't go to church anymore. Mm-hmm. England is becoming very secular. Never mind talking about the Church of England and so on.
Yes.
So in the same way that the Parliament endorsed enslavement, the church gave authorization for that at a spiritual level. Let us remember, in the House of Lords, there are some 43 people, bishops, the two archbishops, Canterbury and York, who are called Lords Spiritual. So they take their place in the House of Lords. The House of Lords is the legal lawmaking chamber with the House of Commons within the English political jurisdiction. So therefore, what I'm saying is that the state, the state could not, the crown, the state could not go ahead and permit, endorse enslavement if the church itself had not been complicit within that. So all of that was going on. Mm-hmm. But then even at the point at which people were campaigning against the continuation of enslavement, the church was there with some people crying out against abolition, while others were very keen on ending that heinous practice.
And this I want
you to... always been...
And this, so I'm sorry to interrupt, Prof, but I want you to stop a minute and let us look at that. Because, I'm a student of history. I studied history all through high school and then later on. And I find it very interesting because when we talk about decolonizing the curriculum, it is critical because we, and I think we're still being taught here on the island, that the exact opposite of what you just said, which is that the church facilitated the abolition processes. But we're hearing from you and from the research of people like from Hilary Beckles that it's the exact opposite. You just said that the church was opposed to those who were fighting for abolition and emancipation. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, you see, there is this notion and I mean, I know Hilary Beckles talks about that a lot too. There is this notion that somehow or other, the church suddenly found and was on the side of goodness. All right. So it found enslavement abhorrent, and did all in its power to put an end to it. No such thing happened. The church itself was concerned about the extent to which it would suffer economically if enslavement were ended. And when the time came for the British government to compensate the people who had enslaved our ancestors, plantation owners, and you have loads of them in Jamaica, they received the 20 million pounds shared amongst them very handsomely, and the church received its own share of that. And remember, what happened then continued, because in so many ways, the people who ran the churches also ran the state. All right, whether Roman Catholic or Anglican, in the sense that if you look at our schooling systems in the Caribbean, the church had a major impact on how schools were organized, who ran them, what kinds of values they tried to inculcate in the population, and most of that was about preparing people for neocolonialism. You know, making sure that the minds were so captured that they continued believing that they had some duty, obligation to those who had colonized them, and an obligation to continue colonization.
And somehow inculcate into us, and we're looking now at the curriculum, that our culture was less than the British culture, for example. So it's always something to aspire to. Hence, we are in a situation where last week, Thursday, we saw the Parliament, the opening of Parliament, the parliamentary clerk standing up and saying, God save the king, and in the name of His Majesty King Charles III. This was happening at the same time that King Charles III was being booed in the UK. That Jamaicans were here praying for him in our highest... I do not know how to say this, Prof, but in the Parliament...
You've got it in one. You've got it in one. That's a classic example of what I'm talking about. You're absolutely right. You know? You're absolutely right. And so, I mean, people take the whole notion of decolonization much too lightly. And it goes back to what the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey said all that time ago about we need to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery, and Bob Marley popularized it for all time. But that is where we begin, you know, because if we don't do that, we cannot put on the lens, the alternative lens, which helps us to look at that history more objectively and from our point of view, from inside the prism of our own experience.
Of course. And as you talk about putting that understanding and that history through our own lens, I want to before we move to more recent times, to look at how profitable was, two things. To look at the profitability, and then I want to link the church to the monarchy, because we see a separation going in even in the conversations on reparations. But how profitable was slavery for the Church of England and the bishops so involved? You talked about how they were paid off at the end, but generally for such a long period of time, how profitable was this for them? It was centuries.
Well, I mean, I can't calculate it in monetary terms, but let's look at it from 3 points of view. A, from the point of view of political influence, from the point of view of the wealth being created for the church itself, but also for its benefactors, those people who helped to keep. Remember, I mean, the church was at the center of the life of every one of those counties in Britain. You know, there's the squire, the aristocracy. Many of those people who became priests and bishops were members of aristocratic families who determined that one of them should go and join the clergy. The way in which state and church and capital came together, in that sense, was really quite critical. So that the church helped to propel the influence and power of the aristocracy in the country, and the land owning gentry and the rest of them. They kept the churches going. They benefited a great deal from the subjugation of the masses through the church. I mean, you know, they were, and that went on, certainly in my own experience in Little Grenada. The influence of the church with the planters. If people giving you subsistence wages on the plantations, and then you go and you cut a bunch of bananas or you dig a yam or something, they call that prédial larceny, and they talk about how much they're losing because workers are stealing stuff and so on. Meanwhile, they're making millions of pounds on the back of those poor workers. And the priest would get into the pulpit on a Sunday and berate the audience, berate the congregation for stealing from the plantation owners. I mean,
yes.
The whole thing was it was joint enterprise in criminality.
Let me take a quick break, Prof. And when we come back, we look at the monarchy and the church. How are we to understand these two entities? Let me take a quick break.
Okay, all right.
We saw recently the church commissioners appointing Grant Thornton to investigate its link to transatlantic chattel slavery and what they established and so on, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about that. But one of the questions that came out of that for me is, here is a church at this place where they have appointed this commission and they've made some, they've deliberated over this and they've actually done something. But there seemed to be something schizophrenic going on here, and I want you to bring us back to, is the Church of England a separate entity from the monarchy, or are they almost one and the same, if you will? How do they operate? Who's the head of the Church of England?
Well, remember the origins of the Church of England. I mean, there was a time when the Church of Rome pretty much ruled everything. And that wayward fellow, Henry VIII, with his many wives, decided that the Pope was not being as compliant as he would have wished with his way of running his life, and because he wanted to be able, to
divorce, to kill his wives or divorce them, either way.
Well, exactly. I mean, you know, he determined that he couldn't be bothered with the strictures that Rome was putting on him. So he decided to break ranks and start his own branch of Catholicism, which was then called Anglicanism. Anglican, as in, you know, Anglia and England and the rest of it.
Yes.
So the Church of England came about as a result of that fracture, and as such, the head of the Church of England is the monarch, which is why when Charles was consecrated, or whatever the word is, crowned, after his mother died 2 years ago or so, there was all of this pomp and pageantry in the cathedral, and Welby, as the Archbishop of Canterbury at the time, presided over that charade. So that's got to be kept in context, right?
Mm-hmm.
So from then on, the way in which the Parliament operated, I mean, the minute the electorate elects a prime minister, she or he goes to the Queen, or rather to the palace, to the monarch, for not only their blessing, but for the authority and permission to go and start a government. And the first thing that the new prime minister does is to put together the elements of what becomes the king's speech or the queen's speech after each election, saying, my government would do X, Y, Z. Mm-hmm. In other words, reeling off the manifesto of the ruling party to tell the country what is going to happen. My government. So that's the official constitutional connection between the church and the state.
Yes. Yes.
And I mean that is important for a number of other reasons. I mean, okay, so we are supposed to be the king's loyal subjects, all right? The Parliament is supposed to be passing laws for our protection as citizens. But the last monarch, the Queen, made sure that laws that were passed to safeguard men, women, black people from discrimination did not apply to the royal household. Yeah, I mean, so in other words, the Queen exempted the royal household from those anti-discrimination laws.
Yes.
So if you were sexually harassed as a member or as an employee of the royal household, you couldn't go to an employment tribunal or whatever and complain. You were debarred from doing that. So there was the monarch saying, "You are my loyal subject." That safeguard you from discrimination don't apply to me or anybody working within my household. Meanwhile, Andrew, as her son, is running around the place doing all sorts of heinous things, and she forks out £12 million to prevent the monarchy being paraded in front of the courts.
And how does this feed back into a historical context? Because child labor, for example, which is one of the things that both Hilary Beckles and Gerald Horne, and here's another book, The Apocalypse of Settler Colonialism, The Roots of Slavery, White Supremacy and Capitalism in the 17th Century North America and the Caribbean, is a book written by Professor Gerald Horne, and he also does a pretty good job of pinpointing the roots of child trafficking and human trafficking and pedophilia and so on within the monarchy and the church. So all of this are historical, but historical and you can help us to understand the moral implications here for the church. And I wouldn't even talk about the monarchy, because I don't know how you say moral implications for the monarchy. But what are the...
Do you remember somebody called Princess Margaret?
Yes.
And do you remember the little island in the Grenadines called Mustique?
Oh yes, they are there today.
And the frolicking that woman used to do in that place.
Yes, but Prof.
Well, I mean that tells you a lot.
But Prof, do you know that William and his family are there now today on that very island as we speak?
I wouldn't be surprised.
It's in the papers this morning. They are there today. So it's interesting. but talking about him, but he came out recently to say that he didn't want to be the head of a church.
Well, indeed. I mean, the fellow doesn't even go to church, for God's sake. He's very upfront about that. He doesn't go to church. He doesn't like churches. Well, whether he likes churches or not, he might like them architecturally, as his father does, but he does not go to church, and that's accepted. I mean, it's a question of choice and faith. So I mean, and that is one of the things that Simon Jenkins, the Guardian columnist, talked about in his very insightful and thought-provoking article yesterday.
Yes,
where he was summing up what happened during the synod and the status of the church in the country just now.
Yes.
I personally, I don't believe that there is any justification for the Church of England to continue to have such a constitutional status within the country. And I would be very surprised if in 25 years' time, the monarchy is still there and the Church of England is still there as they are at the moment.
As they are at the moment?
Yeah. I mean, as a matter of fact, there is every reason why the monarchy should have been buried at the same time as Queen Elizabeth II. But that's another conversation.
Yes, and we'll definitely have it another time. I just as I'm going to the break, a quick note from Professor Vereen Shepherd, who's listening. Good morning, Professor Shepherd. She says over 100 claims for compensation were filed by members of the clergy in Jamaica. And we're talking about, remember the question came up earlier where we looked at persons, how the bishops themselves and how the Church of England claimed compensation. You pointed out after slavery, and she said here on the island in Jamaica, over 100 claims for compensation after emancipation. This is phenomenal. I think it's about time and that more voices are raised in this regard, especially as we talk about in Jamaica the road to republic and the journey to republic. An understanding of what the situation was on the island here in Jamaica, how, not just on the island, but in the Caribbean, but since specifically to Jamaica, and the extent to which the Church of England was also involved in the enslavement of Africans, cruelly and wickedly. And at the same time, as we're hearing this morning from Professor Gus John, fighting tooth and nail to prevent abolition and emancipation. Prof, let me take a quick break. I'll come back. This is going to be pretty quick. Talk us through a little bit of the background to this article that was published on January 9, 2025, where you look at how the church was exporting white privilege and taking sin to the natives, but also charging the Church of England with corporate manslaughter.
Yes. Well, that arose because the church had, since the early 1980s, colluded with he was not a bishop or a priest, but one of the officers within the church, a man who was a QC of all Queen's Council at the time, and was involved in running Christian sort of membership clubs for young people and classes and retreats and so on and so forth. And the young people that he targeted were children who were at the range of high-end public schools in the country, like Westminster and Rugby and Harrow and Eton and so on. And this fellow, he was a known sadist. He beat children up very, very savagely, causing them damage, physical damage, never mind mental distress for the rest of their days. He was known to the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, who was also a warden or whatever it is of one of those very boarding schools. And this man continued to abuse children. At one point there was an investigation into his conduct by another clergyman and somebody appointed by the Anglican Church. They found massive evidence against him, but the church decided that it would harm their efforts to propagate the gospel if the findings of their investigation were known. So they did not go to the police. They did not get this fellow reported so he wouldn't continue his crimes. Rather than that, they allowed him, if not supported his departure to Zimbabwe, where he then continued running these same kind of clubs and abusing local young people, to the extent that one of them, he used to go with them to swimming pools, etc., swim naked. One particular boy died on one of those occasions in a swimming pool. It was dismissed by the authorities there as an accident, and believe it or not, that same fellow was actually allowed to conduct the boy's funeral. Quite extraordinary, yeah. And then when later on it transpired that the boy died as a result of his neglect, he left Zimbabwe. There was a court case, but he was not convicted because of some legal irregularity or whatever. And he left Zimbabwe and went to South Africa, in the Cape, and continued to do the same things there. So my charge in the blog that I wrote, that even now, particularly after this report by Macon that the church had commissioned about 3 years or so ago, which reported towards the end of last year. My point was that even at this late stage, the family of the boy who died while in the charge of this man should actually take action against the church for corporate manslaughter, because although the church did not employ this fellow, it actually knew of his practices, could have stopped him in his tracks, but chose not to, because they wanted to preserve the reputation of the institution, and allowed him to go abroad and do the same thing. But mind you, as I said in my piece, that was not a new practice. They had been doing that forever.
And that's the point. And that's the point. And when you talk about taking the church to court. Let me point it a bit, Prof, to come to righting the historical wrongs. Because here we have the Church of England coming out of the Thornton report, talking about the Queen Anne's bounty and the 100 million pounds, I think it was, that they said they were going to make available in the form of reparations. And so this is what the church has done now. Your perspective on this, how inadequate is this, and is this a way for the Church of England to excuse itself or to get out of the wider ramifications of its involvement and perpetration of slavery, perpetrating slavery?
Well, no, because okay. As I think many have said, including Professor Beckles, no amount of monetary compensation would be enough, frankly. It is ridiculous to assume that the Church of England, which has a huge amount of money, should set aside only £100 million in terms of compensation. If you were to calculate the amount that would have accrued to them from all the compensation that was paid to the ones who were involved at the time in enslaving people on plantations, and what the church has gone on to do with its investment since, you'd be talking about trillions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when people, as they have done here in England, talk about why is the church that is strapped for cash even thinking of giving 100 million, and then when members of the committee protested about that sum and they determined that it should be $1 billion or whatever, most people went up in arms. Okay, my point is that that's not irrelevant, but you see, in order for that to make sense, you have to make sure that the harm that you have caused is not continuing. And the fact of the matter is that there are endless examples of repetition going on across the world within the Anglican Communion. By that I mean the continued subjugation of peoples, the suppression of and in fact demonization of their traditional spiritual practices, the imposition of a particular set of values to do with the church and its beliefs, etc., within the schooling system that the church actually manages in so many countries. One has got to look at all of that stuff,
mm-hmm.
and use the money to ensure that the descendants of enslaved Africans who have been kept in penury by virtue of what the church and the state, the crown, has done ever since abolition, mm-hmm. that some repair is done in relation to all of that. So
all
it's
right.
It's a matrix. It's not just a question of who is going to get the money and what would it be spent on.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's dismantling all of the stuff that the money from enslavement actually built.
All right, Prof, let me take a quick break. And when we come back in the last 15 minutes to say then, how do we do this? How can the Church of England and the British monarchy right the historical wrongs? And to elaborate on what you have said. Let me take a quick break.
Sure.
Every time you are link with a condom, coulda Ozzy, coulda wife, coulda be a random. Play for your best side.
The time by the Ministry of Health and Wellness is
now 8 o'clock, and this John. talking about righting historical wrongs, the Church of England and the British monarchy. Of course, we can't do it in one sitting, but we are just scratching the surface this morning because we have to refocus our attention, especially within Jamaica's particular context, on the road to republic. So then, Prof, how do we begin to write, how does the Church of England and the British monarchy begin to right these historical wrongs?
Well, I think, first of all, they've got to be honest about the extent of the damage that they've done over centuries to Africa and its people. And I say to Africa and its people because there is a tendency to assume that repair and compensation for enslavement is simply a Caribbean affair, or the Americas or Latin America or whatever. In other words, the people in the African diaspora. I think we need to make sure that debate is extended, and we need to ask the question: how might Africa have been but for the fact that 20 million of its people were sacrificed through enslavement in order to advance Western capitalism? A fundamental question.
Yes.
Because the reach and impact of enslavement, and particularly of colonization, didn't stop when the trade in enslaved Africans ended or was prohibited. It didn't stop. We know that. I mean, when you look at what Ibrahim Traore in Burkina Faso is doing just now on the land question,
yes,
and you apply that across the continent, you get a sense of what it is that I'm meaning.
Yeah.
In other words, the project that was neocolonialism, or that is neocolonialism, spanned the Caribbean region, the Americas, and indeed the continent of Africa itself. And when that fearless woman, Mia Motley of Barbados, speaks about the reparations and about African self-rule and the rest of it, she's right in making the point that one cannot separate the experiences of the African diaspora from the continent of Africa itself, and how that has been kept in subjugation and economic bondage by Europe and by Britain in very specific respects. So my point then is that one has got to look at this in the round, understand the extent to which the Caribbean as a region is suffering a kind of double whammy. On the one hand, there was all the impoverishment that took place as a result of a lack of investment, a lack of restoration after the British left and gave flag and anthem independence to those territories, because that essentially is what it was.
Yes.
There has never been economic independence, right? Flag and anthem. So, we have our dances and we amuse ourselves and we paint up the place and so on when every independence anniversary comes around. But frankly, that's pretty symbolic, and it doesn't mean very much. So what I'm saying is,
yes,
we need to look at what the needs of each of those territories actually are in terms of health, education, environment, infrastructure generally, and ensure that some mechanism is put in place
Mm-hmm.
to restore what should have been done all this time ago. I mean, if you read Arthur Lewis's book Labor in the West Indies,
mm-hmm.
which was a 1939 Fabian pamphlet reproduced by John LaRose and New Beacon Books in 1978, you get a sense of how dire the situation was in the 1930s in across the Caribbean, and that situation continues.
Of course,
if God is not merciful and kind and compassionate to us, and we have these constant eruptions, these weather events repeating themselves more regularly than before across the region, then we would all be on our knees, because tourism cannot sustain us.
And especially because we are, and in Jamaica in particular, practicing plantation tourism, which is still slavery by another by another name in this time. How important is it for tourism to be reimagined, but also for the descendants of the enslavers who still hold power at the highest levels on islands like Jamaica? How important is it for those issues to be properly washed out in the public?
Okay, well, I think that's a subject for a much longer conversation in the future.
Okay.
In the future. But,
yes.
but let me just say this. In the late 1950s, there was an attempt to federate the region, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that failed abysmally at the first hurdle. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I do not believe that it is sustainable for those islands to continue to operate in isolation from one another.
Mm-hmm.
CARICOM is an important entity, but even CARICOM is not enough. This idea of these little pieces of rock in the Caribbean Sea being little sovereign states, in the light of what we know is coming with climate change, does not make any sense. The question is then, how do we federate that region and give it the kind of economic power, the cultural sustenance, to be able to be a bloc working in tandem with a united Africa, United States of Africa, so that collectively we can be a major power in the world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We need to begin to think in those macro terms, you know.
Yes. There's one thing I want you to talk to us about and take a minute to do that, which is so we still have the very same Bible. The King James Version is the most worshipped of all Bibles, and I think we can have another conversation about it. But this is also critical to ongoing neocolonialism, isn't it? It's a tool of neocolonialism.
It is, it's problematic. It's problematic in the sense that there is a proliferation. Okay, there is a global commodification of God. All right, let's put it like that. Yes. Churches are springing up all over the place, and anybody who is so minded could start a church and use the Bible and get people to come along and fill their heads with all kinds of foolishness and get a following. All right, I'm not being pejorative, but that's the reality.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and governments have got to do something about that. I am not advocating religious persecution, but for God's sake, there is no way on earth that churches should be proliferating at the rate at which they're doing, for example, in a place like Nigeria. It is ridiculous.
And Ghana. Yeah.
And it's laughable.
Yes, and
totally laughable.
And as you talk about West Africa, and you're comparing, and you talked earlier about what Ibrahim Traore and the others are doing with the electric vehicles and so on, and we see this descent into fanaticism in other places in Africa like Nigeria and Ghana with the King James version. King James in the end got what he wanted, because the translation of the Bible, the reason for that, and I'm so sorry that we don't have. I'm going to have to invite you back to have a conversation about this. That whole synod, if you will, that he called in the way back when, was basically to say that he was and he is the authority and the representative of God on earth. But he has got that, hasn't he? We're now, in black churches across the world, in Jamaica, for example, he's celebrated. It's not the King James version. We're not going to read it, because King James is a man of God, and King James was, but this is exactly what King James wanted, wasn't it?
People like Sankey came after him, so we sing a lot of Sankey.
Well, there you go.
Seriously, that's an important conversation, and I hope we can have that conversation at some stage.
I definitely invite you back for it.
We can't talk about decolonization and all of that stuff unless we deal fairly and squarely with that issue.
Yes. And understand that when we talk about righting historical wrongs, the Church of England and the British monarchy, we're also talking about James I and James II.
That's right.
And Charles II.
No, that's right.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Let me ask, are you paying attention to the Africa Union summit that is on the way in Addis Ababa? They have as their main theme reparations. Africa.
Yes, I know.
Is calling for reparations.
I say thank God for that, because they've ignored it for long enough. Mm-hmm. And it was good to hear Mia Motley's address to them too.
Yes.
Which I hope would help to concentrate their minds. Okay. So just to say, since 2006, I've been a member of the African Union's Technical Committee of Experts.
Yes. And
we've been charged with the responsibility to look at the modalities for making the diaspora the sixth region,
Yes.
Now that's stalled and is faltered, etc., etc., etc. It's beginning to develop some more momentum now, but there are some serious conversations to be had about how you get the populations, both of the continent itself and of the diaspora, to really understand what that means. It's not just a structural thing. It's not the mechanism of governance and who represents who where. It's fundamentally a question of how we change our mindset and reset our thinking that would actually allow all of that to make sense.
Yes.
And that is required on both sides of the Atlantic. It is required amongst us in the Caribbean, as well as on the continent itself, where I spend a lot of time.
And it is well said. Prof, I really want to welcome you back to continue this conversation. We can't have a conversation about righting historical wrongs in just an hour and 15 minutes. But I think we laid the foundation, and I'll invite you to come back and for us to pick up on even at the level of the Africa Union, because this call that's coming out of the Africa Union today, which is a call for reparations, is an interesting one. We'll see how that fits in with the Caribbean, Caribbean reparations call. Professor John, thank you so much, my brother. Really,
I'll be happy to join you again.
Yes.
Thank you again.
And
take care now.
Thank you so much. Professor Gus John, born in Grenada, has lived in the UK since 1964. He's an associate professor of education, an honorary fellow of the Institute of Education, University of London, and the director of Gus John Consultancy Limited. What a conversation. Remember, anything by Professor Vereen Shepherd. The book, The Apocalypse of Settler Colonialism, The Roots of Slavery, White Supremacy, and Capitalism in 17th Century North America and the Caribbean, by Gerald Horne. This is a must-read. Gerald Horne, The Apocalypse of Settler Colonialism. Britain's Black Death, Hilary Beckles. And for good measure, in miserable slavery, Thomas Thistlewood's diary, or diaries, Douglas Hall. Write them down, get them. We can't check out. We can't check out of our present, of our past, and of our future. We're that kind of tripartite being, like Peter Tosh says. I'm a man of the past, etc., etc. We can't check out living in the present and look into the future. It is what it is. And now there's a conversation on the island of Jamaica. And there is not more than a conversation. You heard last week, Professor Vereen Shepherd was on, the Minister Malahoo Fort was on. We've situated the constitutional reform process and the road to the journey to republic within a historical context. We are continuing that. And just to underscore, we cannot say this enough. A referendum is coming up. Getting rid of the monarchy as a head of state of Jamaica. It means we're going to have to vote on it. Voting on it means we have to be registered to vote. Now, I am imploring all of us, go and register to vote. We can't miss this vote. Let us go, get registered to vote on this referendum that's coming up. A Lagoon situation, because we know there's a court case coming up. There's a date. This is in court, and it's been in court for a while. The Blue Lagoon is one of the most beautiful bodies of water on the island. It is fed by 33 underground water springs. 33 is not a mistake. The number is right. For those who don't know, the Blue Lagoon is in Portland. It was made a national monument on August 16, 2018. Portland, of course, is my favorite parish. We have been to the Blue Lagoon many times. Now it is closed to the public. It was designated a national monument. Remember, we've had some fights here in this space over national monuments and the designation of national monuments and how they have been done. A national monument is designated on the grounds of the historic, the architectural, the traditional, the artistic, the aesthetic, the scientific, or the archaeological importance. Blue Lagoon fit every single one of them. And the Jamaica National Heritage Trust and the government of Jamaica, they usually do this to protect the country's heritage. National monuments can be private. The Blue Lagoon is for public access. It's for recreation, it's for education, and also for wealth. And we'll talk about that some more. It is a national monument, the Blue Lagoon. It includes Unity Bay, it includes Limekiln Bay, and their associated beaches. In fact, the Blue Lagoon includes a beach, the Sansan Beach. Sansan Beach is part of the Blue Lagoon Monument. And we are still fighting to keep both the Blue Lagoon and Sansan Beach. We have already lost access to Sansan Beach, and the question is why? Why? Who's presiding over all of this? And why? The Blue Lagoon has been closed and the parochial road blocked since August 29, 2022. The road where we're supposed to walk on to go to the Blue Lagoon, it blocked from August 29, 2022. Somebody is actively keeping the people out of the Blue Lagoon. Under the Monuments Act, a national monument can be privately owned or privatized. A monument can be privatized. However, the question remains, how was the beach of Sansan privatized while being part of a national movement with no access to the public? Why is access to the Blue Lagoon under threat? Was this because of political interference? If so, somebody speak up. Is there political interference in the Blue Lagoon? Was this because of corrupt rich people who buy politicians and the marginalized poor by abusing their power and privilege? Is that the situation? Is this what is happening? Who politically interfered, if anybody politically interfered? Somebody have to answer these questions. Is there political interference in the Blue Lagoon and access to the wider Jamaican public, to the people of Jamaica? And the government of Jamaica must answer this. What does political interference look like? If there is political interference, how is it manifesting, if it manifesting? Is this the same playbook to privatize the Blue Lagoon? What schemes are being employed to privatize the Blue Lagoon? Somebody need to answer these questions. If schemes are being employed, who employing these schemes to privatize the Blue Lagoon? Speak up now. Minister Grange, you have to come forward. Reggae month or no reggae month, you have to come forward. Pretty speaking on, action on, you have to come forward. Tell us what you know, if anything. Daryl Vaz, what is happening in Portland? Somebody has to talk on behalf of the people. We're only calling your names because you're the members of parliament and the minister with responsibility for the monument. What schemes are being employed, if any, to interfere in the Blue Lagoon? How does the privatization of the Blue Lagoon affect all Jamaicans and the people of the Blue Lagoon? The people who work there, the people who used to sell there, the people who make them money there. The vendors, the fisheries, the artisans who are no longer able to make a living there. Religious practitioners who are no longer able to worship there. This is death of a part of our cultural heritage. Minister Grange. Minister Grange. Minister Grange. It is a death of part of our cultural heritage. Something is wrong at the Blue Lagoon. This is transfer of wealth. The wealth of a nation to the already wealthy. Minister Grange, somebody come forward. The people have demonstrated. The people marched. The people have done what the people can do. Should we be concerned? Who really owns Jamaica? Who are the owners of Jamaica? Who controls the Blue Lagoon? Who controls the parochial road to the Blue Lagoon? What is happening at the Blue Lagoon? Why it is so difficult for the people to gain access to the Blue Lagoon? That question must be answered. It must be answered, Minister Grange. To the phone lines where my next special guest is standing by online, and tell you a little bit about her. Maroon Queen is joining me online now. She is a reggae singer and a black conscious advocate, and has been dedicated to advocating for black empowerment for quite some time now. She says this is what motivates her to keep going. She has launched her clothing line and also initiated the Africa Medea Empowerment Movement in collaboration with a few models. So let me go to the phone lines. Oops, not quite sure. I'm not hearing her. Okay, let's go.
Yes,
all right, yes, there you go, Maroon Queen. welcome.
Yes,
how you doing?
Grand Rising.
Yeah.
Well, I am Maroon Queen, formerly known as the Black Queen.
Of course.
Yes. So that I'm the same Black Queen, but now the Maroon Queen, you know, the warrior.
Coming forward. All right, so quickly now, because you're also, you have been, as you said before, involved in Black activism, Black empowerment for a while.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I have been, it started from my song Black and Proud, you know, and I have been, you know, certain times in Reggae Month, I should say Black History Month, and even beyond, I've been, you know, doing Black advocacy. I've been trying to empower and self-love, you know, bringing forth that self-love, that Black empowerment in every way I can possible.
And some of the activities you've been engaged in over time.
Well, I went to Africa for and foremost, and I also started a little foundation there, you know, to get to know Africa a bit more and more personal.
Where in Africa did you start the foundation?
In Tanzania.
Okay.
Yes, in Tanzania.
Yeah. What was that like? Tell us a little bit about living in Tanzania and what that was like.
Well, it was a great experience because, I mean, it has taught me so much, like, you know, that the seed that is planted and to the Western world about Africa. And it was such amazing. It was so amazing just to be there, just the whole energy, you know, the people and realizing what was really, really happening and realizing that there was life there was a lot of investment there, a lot of things that was much easier.
And so many Jamaicans who have moved to Tanzania over time, it's phenomenal in the last few years.
It is.
Yeah. But let me talk to you now about the event that you've got coming up, which is going to be, give us a date again.
Well, it was supposed to originally be the 16th, but I've rescheduled it for the 2nd because we want to have a live broadcast. We want to be able that who is not there, they can be able to tune in.
So that's March 2?
Yes.
March 2. And what is the event and what will it involve?
Well, it involves, of course, you know, it's a fashion event because we bring across our beauty, fashion, pride, and our culture all in one. So it will entail a lot of fashion, a lot of designers, you know, not just African designers, but different designers. And artists, of course, will be there to perform. Of course, you will have poems and you know, models, some of the models that is part of the BQ models, advocate, they will be there and be able to tell the stories, you know, because we still have a problem with colorism, even in our own island, Jamaica.
I love the name of this, which is Africa Medea, you know, and then to be focusing on, as you said, colorism and just Black fashion, African fashion, and a total African event. And you're thinking, while you were putting this together, in terms of colorism, what kind of outcome are you looking for?
Well, I'm looking for, I mean, of course, Rachel Silvera will be there, and this Miss Jamaica Universe, and Rachel Silvera is from this diocese. She's from St. Mary, you know, and a lot of people was behind her, and she has done, a big breakthrough, you know, so she'll be able to come now and support her, and to see the ladies, the beautiful ladies gracing the stage, of course, and being able to involve, you know, in that really authentic Jamaica/Africa kind of connection.
Yes.
You know? So, as I said, if whoever is not able to come to, I want it to be a worldwide event then. So if you're not able to come, you'll be able to tune in. So you'll be able to get a feel of what's going on. And if you're able to come, you'll be able to see the entertainment. You'll be able to see the fashion. You'll be able to meet the celebrities. You'll be able to, you know.
Yes.
It's a lot. It does entail a lot.
All right. So Africa Medea is going to be happening on March. It's going to happen on March 2. And that's going to be right here on the grounds of RFM. It's going to be in the Great House or in the courtyard?
In the Great, yes. Okay. The Great House.
Are you upset spill out in the courtyard?
We just don't want the beauties to get wet.
Okay, there you go. There you go. All right, so it's going to be...
We have to think ahead, but we might just have it in the courtyard.
All right. Is there a cost? Is there a cost?
Yes, the cost is 2005, and there is a if you want a pre-sold ticket.
Okay.
There's a number attached to that.
All right. What's the number?
You can call to get the pre-sold ticket.
What's the number?
Or you can, the number is. Oh, let me just get it real quick.
All right. It's a number that we called you on just now. Because I have it.
Yes.
Some people want to know your number.
Yes.
All right.
530-5318.
All right. So 876.
530-876-530-5318.
Okay. And so once again, it is Africa Medea. And you say you're also doing this as a special tribute for Bonemu Marcus Messiah Garvey, the name of Marcus Garvey.
Yes, because it's also a tribute.
All right.
For Marcus Garvey, as you know, he has been pardoned, by Joe Biden, even though we don't need anyone to pardon Marcus Garvey.
Exactly. Exactly. So I'm going to leave it right there, sir. So, because I don't have the time to take it on.
We will tribute to our people, these people, our ancestors, and the people that fight for us. Even this event is a tribute to all the ancestors that stood up for us, that fight for us, and to let them know that we don't forget where we're coming from. We don't forget from, when they come through, there was a little place to show me in Africa that they had to walk through and that they had to stay bent, that when they came out, the whole body was bent. They couldn't straighten back again.
The door of no return.
Yes, the door of no return.
Yeah,
so this is also a celebration, and to let them know that, listen, don't forget you. We don't forget where we're coming from, and we will never. So this event is to implant this, and that is why it's so important that this is all over, no matter where you are. From you're black, you're African.
All right.
You're black and proud.
As Peter George said, no matter where you come from. All right. So once again, it's going to happen. It's going to be happening on the 2nd. It's at the RFM Great House here in Ocho Rios. And there's a special guest appearance, you said, by Miss Jamaica Universe.
Rachel Silvera and Sarah D. She's also a model that represents us in Poland. She's going to Poland. And there's a whole lot of different type of models, and it's just a huge, if you know about it, maybe it seems like there's so much happening in the fashion world. And even in Jamaica that a lot of persons don't know. I realize.
All right. So this is a chance to come and see.
To come and see that. The MM models, the B2 models, there are a whole host of models.
What time? What time?
We're starting at 6 p.m.
Okay. All right, my sister, thank you so much. We look forward to this.
Much. One love.
This is going to be on March 2, and you too. All right. Yes. So once again, the Africa Medea show at the RFM Great House right here in Ocho Rios. I was queuing this up, so I should open the mic and let him go on top. But let me see if I can get this on, even though I'm a little bit off air. No. Okay, let me do this. Hang on there. We have a special song to play for him because him just come back from somewhere. So let me do this. Okay, I ate that.
1, 2, 3, 4, colon, man o'clock.
What time is it? What time is it?
It is 14 minutes to 9 o'clock.
You're a little bit off mic. Center.
Yeah.
14 minutes to 9?
13 minutes to 9 o'clock.
13 minutes to 9 o'clock. There you go. You love the song we'll play for you?
Beautiful.
Right.
From way back in the day. Bum, bum.
1, 2, 3, 4, colon, man, come. And let me just welcome to the studio my next very special guest. We, could not pass up the chance to tease him because of where I'm coming from. I'm very happy to meet you for the first. Anna, I've seen you before.
Yes, I have, yeah. But officially we have never met before like that.
I am wondering about it because you look very like we didn't met before. All right, so Mr. Colin Bell is in the studio, and just looking for the thing to say who you are, because you're a shadow minister now?
Deputy Shadow Minister of Culture and the Creative Industry.
Right, and tell us a little bit of yourself, because you see I've lost my whole thing in playing the music for you. I lost everything.
Things went awry.
Yes.
Well, I am the Deputy Shadow Minister of Culture and Creative Industry. I was the MP candidate for East Portland up until September. I ran in the last local government election. I am a broadcaster. I am a person who believes in the growth of Jamaica. I am an entertainer. I am a band manager. Spent some time in the Jamaica Defence Force as well. So, yeah.
Right. So, and we are underscoring that you're not here as a politician this morning. Neither are you here as a Jamaica Defence Force person, but you're a former member of the JDF. You are a businessman, event promoter, and master of ceremony, but also, as we said earlier, the Deputy Shadow Minister for Culture and the Creative Industry. You are also involved in other stuff, because I just spoke a little bit about the Blue Lagoon, and you came in and you said you spoke about the Blue Lagoon, and that is dear to my heart. Talk to us about that.
The Blue Lagoon, what is happening with the Blue Lagoon now is really sad in terms of its access. And I hear you're calling on the minister and the member of parliament, but I believe that the parish council, including the mayor, have a serious role to play in this. The road that is blocked off, it's a parish council road. It's the people's road.
What, do you know why it's blocked off?
I heard the mayor in an interview told the host that he don't know who is paying the people who block it off, because there are barriers there, as you know, and the security guard. So somebody's paying these people to be there. Because,
as you know, we went there with Jabem and we faced down the security guards. They were there with guns. We faced them down. And that was a dangerous situation. Even while I was doing that and with others, I know that was a dangerous situation. But we're talking about almost 2 years now.
Right, and nobody moves, nobody do anything to fix this problem. Because, KABU, look at it. It's the people's road, owned by the people on the auspices of the parish council, the municipal corporation. All that needs to happen is for the mayor to say to the superintendent of police in Portland, remove those barriers from the road. That's all that needs to happen.
Are you sure about that?
The mayor have that authority.
All right.
So let's challenge the mayor to do that.
Who is the mayor?
The mayor is Paul Thompson.
Mr. Paul Thompson, do you have that authority? And can you give us a call if you have that authority? Do you have a number for him?
No. Him don't talk to me.
He don't talk to you?
No,
Why not?
Him said not to talk to the media.
What make? But you said you heard him on a radio program.
I heard him on, but you know which station they go on?
No, I don't know which station.
There is a station that they will go on.
Which station is that? We don't prefer to call station name.
He was on Nationwide.
But if he was on Nationwide, then why wouldn't he be here?
Well, try call him now, KABU.
But I don't have his number.
We're going to get it for you. We're going to work it out. I will be able to get it.
Yes.
Because he, as the local authority in Port Antonio, in Portland, the mayor is like the prime minister for the parish, you know.
Yes.
So he can call the superintendent of police and say, this road is a parish council road. There's a barrier there, and manning that barrier, we want it removed. So
let me ask you something, because we said you weren't here in your political capacity, but put on your political hat now, because you're the deputy spokesperson for culture
and the creative
industry, which is exactly which part.
And that's why I'm speaking to you about it.
Yeah, this is where Blue Lagoon falls. May I just say to your listeners, this is not what you come here to talk about, but it looks like this is what we're going to talk about this morning. Because, let me catch the right person. So you heard the questions we posed this morning, and your first response is that, all right, so I'm calling to Minister Grange, I'm calling to Action Ann, and I'm calling to Daryl Vaz. Minister Grange, because Jamaica National Heritage Trust, I know this is a national monument.
Yes.
Daryl Vaz, because he's a member of parliament for one side for Portland.
Right.
And Action Ann, because she's a member of parliament for the other side. So this is why I called them out. So you are saying the person that we need to be talking to is actually the mayor. And this is from your research? This is
from where I sit and my understanding of governance. The mayor of Port Antonio, the chairman of the municipal corporation, because the road It's not an NWA road. You know, roads are owned by a different entity. That road is owned by the parish council. It's not a private road. It's a public road owned by the government.
It's a road that we've been using from
to drive us straight down into the water. All right, I tell you something, right? KABU. I have a friend who owns the property across from the Blue Lagoon. And on his title, the Blue Lagoon is not really there. It's a road go across. Remember, it was years the Blue Lagoon, that area sank. And up came the Blue Lagoon. Right. So the road was across there. I think it named Colbeck Farm or something. It was a farm name. So the public road went down there, go straight round to Dragon Bay and come up. Was when it sank, then the other road cut on the top side.
So when did the Blue Lagoon rise up?
I don't remember the year. I don't remember, but it was not always there.
Because as long as myself, the Blue Lagoon's been there.
Me too. But right, as I said, history will tell you that the road ran across there.
Right.
That was the main road. That road would go down, they would go straight. That's why the road ended up straight into the water.
Right. So it's ancestor mermaids, mommy water, so not the Blue Lagoon for the people them. No, this is serious business.
So,
and if we do not open the road to the Blue Lagoon is going to go back where it's coming from. No, this is serious business.
No, it's not joke. But the mayor, the parish council needs to do something about the road.
What do you know about everything around it then? Why was the road closed in the first place?
KABU,
there must have been a reason why the road was closed.
There were some issues with the people who operate there.
You mean the
natives operate there.
Jamaican people?
Yeah, man. Our people operate there, doing business, selling craft, doing boat ride, doing raft ride.
But we used to go to Aluwal. What kind of issues?
You know that people live down there as well, right alongside the road. So you step off the road and you step into, you open your door. That's how close the buildings are.
Yeah, there are villas and high-end homes.
Right.
Down there. Maybe like rich people.
Yes.
Rich people houses.
Yeah.
Down there. All right. So why you mention that?
The whole argument of how the operation used to be, and people never used to conduct themselves properly. But I believe that's an issue that could have been dealt with. Yeah, it's nothing beyond dealing with, because there's an organization down there. The Blue Lagoon Alliance. They are down there and they're organized, them wear uniform. So if you have few bad apples, you know, dash out the baby with the bathwater.
You streamline the thing.
You streamline the thing and fix the thing and allow, because right now, the man who used to do the rafting, our natives were used to raft in the waterways and earn a living. That can't happen no more.
So the Jamaican people who used to raft on the Blue Lagoon, they themselves don't have access to the Blue Lagoon now.
They can go to the Blue Lagoon, but the rafting, they don't do the rafting anymore. No boat
so no
ride,
money can't make them for send a pit them go to school.
And that's what the money used to make.
I know.
From the rafting, that's what the money make.
I've been on the rafting.
You know?
I've been, and I've seen the river.
One of the arguments is that there's no legislation.
What do you mean legislation?
To license them or to govern them or to ensure them. And I'm saying to the powers that be, you are there because you are legislature. So if there is no legislation, put one in place.
I do not understand what you said just now. I think I'm a bit slow. What do you mean there's no legislation?
All right, so for rafting, you're rafting down the Rio Grande. Yeah. There's something in law that allows that and license the raftsmen.
So doesn't it cover all the raftsmen across Jamaica?
They are saying that there's no rafting on the sea. Because remember now, most of that water is really sea.
But what is?
but the issue is, KABU, if that is a problem, put legislation in place.
But you can't move so fast. No, we need to understand that. Are you making this up or this is what? No.
KABU up on national radio.
No, there's no rafting. I'm totally confused.
So there's not a license to be granted.
I'm confused in this space now. All right, so Jamaica doesn't allow rafting on the sea.
No.
Only on the river.
Right, so there's a license to raft on rivers.
And Blue Lagoon is a sea.
Right, so them use that and say, well, the rafting have to stop. But my say to them, the powers that be, the two members of parliament, Mr. and Mrs. Vaz, the people of Portland put you there to make legislation. So if Portlanders are earning from something that is not illegal, not hurting anybody, it is your responsibility now to put that legislation in place so as to allow the raftsmen at Blue Lagoon, to raft along that sea coast, past Pelou Island and go down to Sansan and come back. The people of Jamaica like it. Everybody will come there, love it. People come there for that purpose.
All right, so the people who used to make their money rafting, on the Blue Lagoon, that is done. Also, on another from another end, we the people who used to just take up a family upon any public holiday, and we head to Portland, and sometimes we head to the Blue Lagoon, and even for Portland people who walk down to the Blue Lagoon to get a dip, they cannot do that anymore from August 2022.
No, man, they are doing it now, but it's not the way it used to be. Yeah, man, the Blue Lagoon is open. You can go to the Blue Lagoon, but you access it through another property.
Which property?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure who's the owner, but I know.
He's not your friend from over the other side? Can you say
no, not somebody who's on the same side. But I'm not sure who gives the permission for that access.
The reason why people are accessing from another property and not from the road, the parochial road, is because the parochial road is closed.
Right.
And there are security guards there.
And the mayor said him don't know who closed it.
But it's a parish council road.
But it's the mayor's road.
And the mayor says, you sure so the mayor said him don't know who
the
closed
mayor
it?
was on Nationwide saying him don't know who closed it. The host asked him who paid the security guards. Him say him don't know.
All right, Mayor Thompson.
Paul Thompson.
Please give us a call. I really would like to hear from you what the problem is. But on the other side, I don't know if you know this, but this matter is also in the courts.
Yes, I'm aware that it's in the court.
Right, and that is Jabem, that is...
But it shouldn't take Jabem to take it to court, KABU.
Right.
This road is the parish council road. So I am here on your program this morning saying to the mayor, I'm challenging you, mayor, to instruct the superintendent of police, because the mayor in KABU really have the authority to instruct the superintendent of police in charge of the parish.
Is there political interference in all of it?
You'll
never give the power to a bald head. One come crucify the dread Lord. No, sir. Me can't matter. Look here now.
How long shall they steal the profit? Profit.
While we
stand aside and look. That's all I will say about that, KABU.
Is there political interference?
But
I can't say.
No.
Spokesperson.
And I'm calling this morning on the mayor of to come out and stamp your authority, and to the councillors, because they are also the directors of the parish, to call on the police to remove those barriers, because there's no legal standing for those barriers to be in the public road, why the state can't move them.
And the barriers are one thing, but there are security guards there that are ensured that nobody nobody cross the barriers.
And if there are security guards here, somebody's paying them, the mayor must speak.
So the security guards are from a private company?
Of course.
So do we know which company?
No, I don't know which company it is.
But we can look on their uniform and tell. Are they plain clothes?
We can most of the time, because I go there and walk past them in a KABU.
And you go down to the Blue Lagoon?
I go there and walk past them until a man don't touch me.
It's because your name Colin Bell?
No, because I just feel I'm on the public road and I have a right to walk on that road.
But not all of us can test it that way. We did that too, but we did it in a group. But at the same time, we were tearing down the barrels of guns.
Because really and truly them can't do nothing and them know it. It's a public road.
But I felt threatened.
But must. When I go there too, I pass them, but I dip on my P's and my Q's.
You know what I do not want? Let me take a break. You see, because people are going to want to challenge this. And we saw a situation the other day where a brother went to a property and was walking along the beach with his partner, with his wife, and we saw how the security guard, and we're not blaming the security guard, because I don't blame the security guards, I'm telling you the truth. They are paid.
They have given a responsibility.
They have been given a responsibility, and they're using the people who look like us. They're giving the people who look like us these responsibilities to point guns at us and to threaten us if we cross these barriers or these imaginary lines in the water. because this is basically what it reached now. I do not know if the powers that be, NEPA, the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, and all who are responsible for NEPA and UDC and all those agencies within that ministry, I do not know if they understand that they're sitting on a powder keg. This is likely to get out of hand. Our backs are against the wall, and you talk about that whole area of the Blue Lagoon. I have been on boats just going across the water, looking across at the houses. Poor people cannot afford them houses there. So once again, we get to the point of we are able to witness. We are bearing witness to prosperity, but we are not able to participate in prosperity. We are on the outside looking in. Now, this is a dangerous combination.
KABU,
yeah.
I am saying to the people, because there's both two sides to every story. And I'm saying to them that if you can afford to pay a security guard down there 24/7, why you can't just have police down there during the days regular? Because during the night nothing happen down there. Have police to monitor the situation, to make certain that rules are adhered to and the behavior down there is of a certain standard, and allow the people to conduct business. It is a prime spot where Jamaica wants to go to.
Yes.
There is a case for the carrying capacity of any of these sites.
So you regulate it.
Exactly. So I don't have a problem regulating and adhering to rules and laws, but this stiff restriction of people from going there, no, I'm not depend on that.
This is why I'm asking you if there's political interference.
KABU, as I said to you,
Dada-dee?
Dada-dee.
All right, let me take a break. Let me take a break. But we find ourselves talking about the Blue Lagoon. But because you're also, you didn't come with your political hat, but I tell you to put it on, and I'm going to ask you to keep it on, as Deputy Shadow Minister of Culture and the Creative Industries, because it's all of Jamaica, is not just Portland.
No, not at all.
Now we have a situation out here, so thank you for coming in.
Mm-hmm.
The White River, I don't know if you were in Panama. That's why we played this song for your colon, man.
Yeah, man.
Right, so you're just coming from Panama, so I don't know if you recognize or you've heard.
I've been following.
Right, so your own thinking on that, and what's the solution for all these people who have been rafting on? I've been in Otrius. I've started working at Otri Farm. I go to school from in a lower 6. I come and work at JBC Radio Northeast, and I take the bus and go back. Rafting was always upon the White River with freely rafting on the White River. So what is the problem now?
The problem, KABU, is a failure to put in measures and to maintain our attractions, even our roads. Because why you want to stop rafting on White River? You can't stop it.
Well, they're saying they don't have any license, but that is river now, that's not sea.
No, but you fix it. What do you mean you don't have no license, them can't get it?
They said there's one licensee so far. There's one person. And I don't, listen, this is the news. I'm just quoting the news, which...
And that's why I remind you, there are two sides to every story. So
right.
what is the real reason? What is happening there? Is it that somebody have the sole authority to conduct rafting on the White River?
But it couldn't be that way. Could it be that way?
I don't know. That's a question. Is it that is the case, and therefore other people are infringing on the legitimate business person?
Then the question would arise: why would other people have been allowed to raft for so long, to conduct their business on the White River for so many years?
And that's why I said most of these things come down to putting in the proper structure, because there must be a problem, and you can't throw the baby with the bathwater. You need to fix the problem. Whatever the issue is, I don't know the details of White River. Why? Yeah. I think at one time I was hearing that there is somebody with a license to do rafting in that area.
Yes, I heard that too. But so what is your concern and your party's concern for the fishermen folk and for the rafters and for the artisans and so on who have been driven off the White River, and what is likely to happen to them now?
It takes me back to carrying capacity of our ecosystem, KABU.
Yeah.
An area can't all the while hold 100 vendors.
Right.
It's just not practical.
So regulate it.
And that's what I'm saying. So what it needs is regulation. I mean, if there has been one licensee, let's say from 1962,
Filomeno, yeah,
it doesn't mean that you can't get a next one in now, because you say more tourists are coming, the pie is bigger. Yeah. So then maybe you need to give somebody else one, but you still can't have 100 people coming in on the licensee who is paying a license, paying insurance, and
that I do take, because I notice another situation at the Rio Nuevo village where I know that there's a licensee who developed that entire area. Right. For rafting on the Rio Nuevo inside of his private property, but that there's another entity that has set up business at the top of that of his business, and I'm wondering, how do you issue your license? What can you tell us, if anything?
And maybe that's why the government have to step in, KABU, because if I have a license to operate here, and I set up the place and operating, and you come topside me, you don't have no license, you set it up, we are now competing at a disadvantage.
And the thing is, I don't know if this other entity has a license.
I know, I'm just saying, if this is the case where people are operating without license on people who have a license, paying insurance, paying all of these high costs, you not paying any costs, but you're competing with me for the same dollar in the same space that I am paying for,
and you're not licensed.
And you are not licensed. So it takes the government have to now step in and correct the situation. Just like we're calling on the parish council to step in and correct the situation at Blue Lagoon. Yes. Government have to do what government needs to do, just like we are saying that the government needs to step in and ensure that you're seeing both get back in money.
No, that's also another thing, and I want to go to that too. So hold on by you saying then, and let me just say, because in Rio Nuevo, I find this particularly interesting, because I go to the Rio Nuevo Beach a lot. I mean, that is where I write my book them, you know. It's where I meditate.
You get the meds there.
That's where I go get the meds there. And but I know I've been watching the growth of that area, and I've noticed over time that the proprietor at the Rio Nuevo village has developed a nice little ecotourism situation, heritage ecotourism situation, you know. But above him, right above him on the same water in the public area, there is a very similar business going up, and apparently it's being allowed to operate. I don't know how that is.
If that person gets a license from the government, then the person would have to operate.
Is the government likely to issue two licenses, competing licenses?
It depends on the carrying capacity of the area. Because suppose the government believes that this place can accommodate 2,000 people a week, one place not going enough.
It can't, look so to me. The Rio Nuevo, the Rio Nuevo cannot accommodate that situation.
So therefore, the person with the license now need to find out if this person have a license and make a report.
That is true.
Because government have to do what government have to do.
Yes. It's a very interesting situation. I wonder how tourism is being done in Jamaica in terms of granting licenses, because it seems to me as if there's also a kind of curry favor situation, and I'm speaking generally now. That if you know somebody from some agency that's responsible for something close to it, then you're more likely to
I don't want to sound like a Scotch record, KABU, but again, I believe that licenses are granted on carrying capacity.
Carrying capacity. That's what you believe, but not go so.
If me go before you and get the license before you, and me have the place I run, you might can't get a license for that place right there, so because the government might not be issuing two licenses for the area. So then now people are saying, because you know Shakar, that's why Mr. Bell get it and me not get it. But you still have to look at that.
These are questions arising across Jamaica, because there is the tourism is developing in a pretty neoliberal, selfish, capitalistic way. Yeah. Plantation tourism, and people who and this one of the reasons why I'm concerned about Rio Nuevo is because I like what I see happening there. That's heritage. That's eco.
That's right.
We the people. Yeah.
Oh, that's all. Yeah.
Yeah.
On the left over there.
You can't even call it. You can't even say tourism in the wider sense. That's a whole. You know what I'm talking.
Yeah. But you know what the problem Jamaican have, KABU?
Yeah.
If them see a set up a business and it at work, I see a business they want to set up too, We not diversify. Once a man see if a man see a sell water and it a sell him just want to sell some water to make a...
And that is why you need structures in place, and that's why you need legislation, and that's why you need protection. Because there has to be protection.
Yes.
And fair competition. What about fair? Who is responsible for fair competition?
It's the government.
Which
you have a fair trading commission, you know.
Under which agency? Under which?
I don't know if it fall under the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. I think
commerce.
That's our commerce somewhere there, so it might be.
Yeah.
But you have to look at those. We just need to start use with creative juice more.
Yes.
We are a creative people.
But I'm very concerned about TPDCO and NEPA and the UDC and the lack of transparency and the way these agencies have been acting in terms of whether it's mining, whether it's swamplands, whether it is mangrove lands, whether it is granting building permits. They seem to be operating in contrary to what you would think their mandate is. So maybe we need to look closer at the mandate is.
Maybe the media, the fourth estate, need to get more inquisitive and ask more questions.
That's true.
Because that's what the fourth estate is there for, to inform the public, get the information on the public behalf. Because every Jack and Jin and Tom and Colin can call and...
Yeah. No, but you're media too, you forget to say you're media.
Yeah, and that's why we do these things, KABU.
So I hope that, well, let's work on this and see what comes out of it. I'll invite you after you've done your research.
All right.
To come back.
But Reggae Week, Reggae Month, KABU.
Let me take a break and come back to Reggae Month and also to Usain Bolt.
Yeah.
March, Taurus Riley, Ernest Smith, Tanya Stevens, Bunker Herman. These are the honorees this year. This is happening on Ash Wednesday, March 5. And busy as usual in charge of this and doing a brilliant job. The honorees, Taurus Riley, Ernest Smith, Tanya Stevens, Bunker Herman. Ash Wednesday, March 5. Looking good and sounding good. So that is, we're going to go back now to my very special guest in studio, Colin Bell. He is a Deputy Shadow Minister for Culture and the Creative Industry. He's a businessman, he's an event promoter, he's a broadcaster, master of ceremonies, former People's National Party candidate for Eastern Portland, former member of the Jamaica Defence Force. Why are you not why are you not candidate for Eastern Portland again?
There were some issues on the ground, and I was not able to bring together all the comrades to our unified team going into the election.
Oh, so in other words, the comrades didn't want you?
No, two comrades, the two councillors weren't giving me their support. The people on the ground wanted me.
Okay.
But
all right.
It's a team thing, so...
So who is the candidate?
Isaac Buchanan.
Isaac
Buchanan,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you mentioned Usain Bolt earlier, and being the spokesperson for culture and the creative industries. I want you to situate this for me within a global perspective, because it seems to me as if here on the island it is being dealt with like everybody kitchen it there. But this is a global issue because it is Usain Bolt. This is not PMP or something, you know.
From the first day I heard of the fraud, I said to my friends, I said it on here, I said it to a lot of people, that Usain Bolt must get back his money or Jamaica is going to pay dearly for it. I have been watching it. The former Minister of Finance said that he would leave no stone unturned. And I thought he saw the importance and the seriousness of it. He would bring in the FBI. We have not seen that. We have not seen the pace to which you would want to see this done and Usain Bolt get back in money. And you correctly said it, because it is Usain Bolt. KABU, all men are not equal. Anytime you start believe that, you believe in a fallacy. Usain Bolt is one of the top people in the world. You take away money. Somebody who works for this country, who gave his all. I like patriots. When I signed up for the army, I did it voluntarily. As I tell people, I'll still take up arms for this country if needs be. That's how I love the country. Now, when you see a youth sweat, blood and tears on the world stage and earning money, come back and invest it in Jamaica. Because the kind of investment that you do in a SSL is you give your money and say you can use this money and invest it in a Jamaica. Do things in a Jamaica and create more employment. Invest it. If you lose by investment, fine, you're not going to lose everything one time. But if you lose some by investment, you're willing to take that risk. But you're never going there expect nobody to take it away. And then when the youth come out now after 2 years and talk about his money and tell the people, I'm not get back a dime, I'm not get no argument, people want to politicize that. How you do that?
Notice that there's some efforts to politicize it, and it is a shame.
Jesus.
This should be taken as a Usain Bolt, as you would take a Bob Marley.
Yes.
So he's not here. Because of the person Usain Bolt, what he has accomplished, the fact that he's now a global icon. He's a global personality. And so that, and even because he's a human being, there are many reasons to do this. Any one of us who you tea from, we expect that there should be some checks and balances in place. And I have a very similar situation, I can just tell you. And I'm just, watching Usain, and my money is nowhere near Usain money. And so
But you don't have the amount of money that Usain have either.
Well, that is true. And nowhere near it either. But I understand his restraint, and I understand the kind of helplessness and the hopelessness when they're telling you that there is just no way to recover 1 cent. But here it is now. This is now going on a global stage. This is on a global stage. And so the backlash in many ways is going to be on us, we the people.
We going to feel it.
Yeah.
Because watch this. In the throne speech on Thursday, the government is expecting $2.5 billion worth of foreign direct investment. That has never happened on this island before. But if you are expecting people to come here and invest, and you are treating your own investor the way you're treating Usain Bolt, because this is what makes the problem. Usain Bolt is global, so anything happen to him is on the world stage.
Yeah, that expectation within the context of a Usain Bolt is childish, because all he has to do is an international interview.
And people are calling him for it.
Yeah, he hasn't done that.
They are asking for it. Yeah. And you don't want him to go out there and do that. But the problem with it is that we are not seeing the efforts. If the efforts were out there and we know, say, people are get arrested, the information are come, because the minister had also promised that he would give us regular information on the investigation on Usain Bolt money.
I'm shocked. What about the forensic audit that was supposed to be done? What about
that was done, and the report is that they have delivered their findings.
And do we know for sure? Because there's so much out there now. Bolt is saying, and I suppose we listen to you saying.
Yeah.
I mean, he knows what has happened, but there's another school of thought out there about at what point his money was stolen. Does it even matter?
Does it even really matter? But why that coming now? Why that now too?
I do not know.
And then it is coming as a leak from the forensic audit that was done from the overseas people. That's what them claim say it leaked from that.
Are you serious?
It's joke about these people. But I don't know what we're thinking.
I empathize with you saying, and I cannot imagine $12 million US. And why is it that they're thinking that it doesn't matter, that Usain can cushion, that he can stand the blow of losing 12 million years? It is a damn shame.
If it happened to Usain KABU, it will happen to your child, and it will happen to my child. Because I feel it for him as a father. Because, as fathers, nobody no wants to see your boy better than you, than you. We want to see the best for our sons. And when your son go out there and make it, and then just the people just take it away from him,
it's a shame.
It burn your heart, man.
Yeah, man, it's a shame.
It burn your heart.
It's a shame, and we are getting conscienceless now in Jamaica. And it's a hard blow. Have we heard anything from the Prime Minister regarding this? Because this is Usain Bolt.
I can't remember. I'm not saying that he has not said anything.
Yeah.
I can't remember. But you see, this is what I want to show people, KABU. Usain is a creative, because sports is a part of the creative industry.
Yeah.
Usain Bolt came from nothing to be now one of the wealthiest Jamaican through the culture and the creative industry. And that's why we are saying to people that this is where Jamaica now needs to start looking for economic growth. This is how we are going to enrich our people. And I sometimes wonder if our leaders are afraid of this industry, because it is boys like Usain Bolt, girls like Shelly-Ann, boys like Chris Gayle, girls like Bunny Shaw, who through the culture and the creative industry, Vibes Cartel, Beanie Man, Shaggy, they become wealthy. And we are saying that we have not even scratched the surface of the possibilities of that in Jamaica by creating 2,000 more millionaires through the culture and the creative industry.
Yeah, this is a level of heartlessness, and I hear how you're situating this, and it makes, even putting it in that context, I think is brilliant, because what it does is to show how people are impacted by other agencies that are set up around these creative industries that are supposed to be protecting the creative, but at the end of the day,
you report the star.
Yeah. Just going back to the Blue Lagoon, a text from a listener. All the houses that are built in the Blue Lagoon are built on foreshore and in the sea. This is illegal, as the foreshore and the sea is owned by the Crown or government of Jamaica. So why is the government doing this? Who is transferring the wealth of Jamaica to the rich? Regulations in order, yes, but no carrying capacity unless this will be done for all hotels.
All right, for that. If you're building a house and you build it in the sea, you have to get permit from NEPA. So I just want to say that I believe that all those people would have gotten their permits to build or they build. So the government can give you a license to do that. And I also do believe that every hotel, every property that is licensed under TPDCO have some carrying capacity.
Mm-hmm.
So I think those are in
so
place.
The houses that are built in the sea, them have permission to be in the sea out there.
That's my information.
Why so many people building in the sea, but the Jamaican people have no access to the sea?
KABU, access to our beaches. I believe that we must have access to our beaches, whatever way. You shouldn't have a beach that is locked off from the people in all cases. I don't mind pay access. I don't mind you tell me that it is full. I must say it full.
But you can't come back tomorrow.
But I can come back tomorrow.
Week.
I don't mind if you tell me, say, pay me $500. I'm going to pay you $500. I'm going to go in and I can't access it for the day. I don't mind that. But what I have a problem with is when you tell me that I can't go down there. I can't go. I must be able to go.
We are in the same boat on that one. Morning, Sister P. Sister P said, morning, the people of Jamaica need to take to the street to defend Hussein. I feel the same way. I tell you something, KABU. I'm a father. My sons, I have great dreams for them. And I would be the proudest daddy to see my son achieve like a Usain Bolt on the world stage. I'm going to want to see him get robbed after that. I'm going to want to see nobody child go through this, and that's why I wonder about when people are say, you see if on a private investment, and if the government, they tell you if you go invest, the government told him that he could invest. Yes, the government told him that by way of giving SSL a license to operate. We come back to the license, KABU. SSL is certified by the government of Jamaica to operate as an investment house in Jamaica, so much as the Prime Minister was investing. Government agencies put their money there, put our money in SSL. So how dare you are going to ask Usain Bolt them question there? Yes, so you're blaming the victim. Usain Bolt is a victim and a survivor, and I know he doesn't want to go in a victim mode, but he's been victimized.
We must defend him doing
and betrayed at the same time. It's a betrayal. It's betrayal of the highest order. I don't even know how he stand it. If I me just sell everything up, well, not even sell, me just pack up and leave Jamaica and tell everybody why I'm gone.
That give me more courage to defend the youth, KABU. Because the youth is a patriot. Yeah.
Yes,
the youth in the first place say, oh, me not talk, I don't want this damage my country.
Yes.
And you sit down on your laurels and not go out there and defend the youth money. That is my issue with the government.
Shame.
I don't think the government has done enough
yes.
to find the youth money. I heard the lawyer talking. We don't.
And brothers to fight tooth and nail to save Mamia's life and to free him from the grips of his oppressors.
All right, we're back with you in the final hours, the final minutes of the Africa Forum. It is Running African. Colin Bell is in studio. He's a Deputy Shadow Minister for Culture and the Creative Industries. He's just returning from Panama. You know, it's interesting that you come for, we just talk about Panama and Ting and where you see, and to talk about culture and how, but we still end up talking about culture. And this is a good thing about it, that we are talking culture seriously.
Yes.
Before we go to Panama, quickly now, here, I have a whole lot of messages coming in, but this one is what was said about NEPA. We had this conversation about NEPA. NEPA can issue licenses to build on the foreshore, but can't give the sea to anyone. By allowing a house to be built in the sea, you have permanently transferred that part of the sea to an individual. And the question is, where will this end? What are the implications of allowing people to build in the sea? Are we about to lose the sea as well?
We can ask all those questions, Kabu. But
we're going to ask.
What I answered to firstly was what exists permanent as is now. As a people, we have to determine where we want to go in. And that's why I heard you earlier talking about the referendum to come, and people should register to vote. But people should register to vote not just for the referendum, but Jamaicans need to vote in your election to elect your members of parliament and your councillors. How important it is. If we had a mayor in Portland who was a strong person and could have stand up, the road at Blue Lagoon would not have security guards manning it. No.
I do not believe that.
I strongly believe so.
Let me tell you why I do not believe that. I have been on this road for a very long time, and it is not a parochial road. I have been on this path for a very, very long time. And the extent to which we have lost our beaches, access to the land around beaches and access to the beaches, majority of that took place in the PNP. Under the PNP government, between P.J. Patterson, Portia Simpson Miller, and straight into Bruce and straight into Andrew. Nothing has stopped. It is... You know how Israel is seen by the Democrats and the Republicans, whoever come in just bomb Palestine. This is basically the beach issue in Jamaica and access to the rivers and the waters. The PNP and the JLP are capitalists 2.0 who have the very same thinking on access to land and access to beach, and that is why we're in I don't want to use the word that come into my mind, but that's why we're in the thing where we're in now.
But it come down to who we choose to lead.
It not come down to nothing like that.
So you're saying
we choose ourselves.
Yeah, exactly, you're saying every man is going to be the same thing. No, I disagree with you.
But every man has been the same thing.
Every man who has been there already.
So who are going to change it?
Mark Golding has never been there.
What is Mark Golding saying about it now?
I have not canvass his personal views on the Blue Lagoon because...
Is it Mark Golding also a private property owner who in real estate who have beachfront properties where the beaches are privatized?
Are you saying that if I can buy a piece of beachfront property, I shouldn't buy it?
I never said nothing like that. You tell me that Mark Golding is a leader who's going to change it.
And I'm
telling you that it is not within Mark Golding's interest to change the status quo.
But why would you think so?
I think so because
I want you to talk to him.
I have opened the space to Mark Golding.
I am sure that Mark Golding will come talk to you on Sunday morning.
He hasn't shied away from being on the phone. But I've opened the space to him, and if he wants it, he can get it.
No, but I'm sure me ever talk to him. I'm sure
anytime.
I am sure the party leader will come and sit down with you on Sunday morning like this and have those discussions with you.
Well, you never come here as JLP, so stop it.
No, me never come here. Me never been a JLP.
As PNP, you mean? You never come,
no,
you never come here as PNP.
And that's why I still want to talk about Reggae Month KABU, because it's something that is burning me really bad.
Take the time. Take the time, because...
KABU,
yes.
We have been having Reggae Month for quite some time now, and I'm disappointed with what it is that we have as a Reggae Month.
Right. So let me just draw a line under what you're saying, and just to preface what you're saying with something very important. In 2007, myself, under the guidance of Carl Young, Big A, led a delegation to Nana Rita Marley, because we were about to embark on a series celebrating reggae artists, Dennis Brown, Bob Marley, Peter Tosh. We were about to embark on some wicked concerts. And we wanted the buy-in of the relevant persons. We went first to Nana Rita Marley because we know her and know the kind of person that she was. And we gave her this idea. And we said to her, one of the things we want to do is to declare the month, Reggae Month. And she says it has to be done through the Ministry of Culture at the time, led by Babsy Grange. And she got up out of... Is that Mr. Big A beside me?
That is the bigger A.
Mr. Big A, grab the microphone. We're glad you're coming in because...
That is the bigger A. What you know what a long time. What's that?
What you doing, man?
It's a blessing.
You won't grab a microphone, you know, because Big A, I didn't want to say you're coming in.
I'm going to live till I'm son him.
Till I'm son him.
Yeah, your name was just called, brother.
Because Colin is, we can't believe that Colin knows a Reggae Month, our idea, and me and you did sit down and trash that out before we took it to Nana Rita Marley. I am tired of the foolishness now. And this is why I have to stop and tell you that Nana Rita Marley brought us to Babsy Grange, and who was a minister at the time. In that meeting was also Barbara Blake Hanna. Courtney Wallace from Irie, Joy Morgan from Irie, myself. You know, Big A, we keep leaving out. Wasn't Sidney Bartley? Was he in the meeting itself, or was he came afterwards?
I want to tell you something.
Yes.
No, you ask me, and then I remind you of something.
No, asking about Sidney Bartley. Wasn't he like? He was there. I don't know if it was in a meeting, but I know we met up with him afterwards. Yes, so you tell me. So grab your microphone because you know nobody not hear you through this one here. Colin is about to talk about Reggae Month, and I need to situate Reggae Month in context. One of the reasons why Reggae Month is the way it is because it was hijacked from Irie FM. It was hijacked from us.
So they never have the idea.
Unceremoniously, they do not understand what it is about. They do not understand what it was meant to be, and they won't even ask. This is the craziness of it. No one has asked us what was the thinking when we brought the idea with Nana Rita Marley to Minister Grange. She said to us that she loved the idea, and she said she was having a conversation with Lloyd Stanbury about a reggae week, not a reggae month.
Not a month, a week.
Understand? A reggae week. But it hadn't gone anywhere, and she said, well, here we are. Literally synchronicity, good idea coming from different places. But because Nana Rita Marley was so involved in this went just like knife through butter. It was done in no time, and by 2008, it was launched. Big A was at the official launch. We carried it live.
Yeah, not only that, Big
A, we're not here, you're so good.
No, but even before that, the genesis of Reggae Month was the first Bob Marley celebration.
That's right.
At the White River Reggae Park, and that was what gave birth to the whole phenomenon. Because when you and I discussed, we said that the celebration shouldn't be about Bob Marley in February alone.
No.
It should have encompassed all the reggae greats. That was the genesis of the reggae.
That was the genesis of it.
That was the genesis of the reggae.
And remember, we met with the Peter Tosh Foundation, and we had the massive shows in Westmoreland. Remember, we also had the Dennis Brown shows. We had the Bonnie Whaler shows. We had a plan and a template that would have carried us for 10 years, 15 years, 25 years, 30 years, all the way down the line, as old as Irie FM. So when you're saying that you're noticing that Reggae Month is gone the way it is gone, what exactly do you mean?
Because what I expect from a Reggae Month, this global music, you cannot have a Reggae Month without signature events. There are no signature events for Reggae Month.
Because they cut out the signature, because they grabbed it from us and cut out the
never
signature.
Understand it. That's what constantly happens. So it's a wasp business. You never get the full teaching from bees how to make honey. You just hear about it and you run with half of the thing.
I thought you meant white Anglo-Saxon persons. When you said wasp.
No. You know the issue with wasp. Today him can't make honey.
He can't make honey?
No, because him never get the full teaching.
So it's a wasp business.
So so that's why Reggae Month has actually failed. I look at Reggae Month and I believe that we should be having at least 5 million people coming to Jamaica for the month of February. You have 4 weekends of signature events.
Listen, we started it that way. I begin remember, the Peter Tosh event, for example. There were delegations come from Billboard and what the other.
Yeah,
you tell what them they were coming from. Remember, the thing was.
That's what it have to be.
It
have to be an international week.
Yes.
Something that you'd want to use to launch the reggae music for the year.
Don't tell them too much, and we're not talking out too much. Then don't have a clue. They stole it. The thing is that no, we were so.
We are going to fix it in a KABU.
We were so upset here at Area FM when they hijacked it from us.
Mm-hmm. That the Reggae Awards was part of
exactly.
How can we not have our own awards, Biggie?
No, well, we had.
But where it ought to be, it's not there, and it should have been big by now. Yeah, but if you don't have people who love what they're doing, and my leader tells you that the best person to execute an idea is the person who come up with the idea.
Who's your leader?
Mark Golden.
Oh, I thought you meant Jesus.
So if Area FM came up with the idea, Area FM should have been allowed. Come on, leave me alone. Jesus is my God. But
I'm just checking.
Yeah. But we have to be serious about reggae. Reggae, the culture and the creative industry can turn Jamaica's economy around.
I do agree with you, and me and Biggie are not good people to talk to about that, right, Biggie? You have something to say?
Because it's like the choir.
Yeah, because remember they stole it from us, Right.
Yeah. It's sad. And you see, that is the problem with when you take something and you're one.
Yes.
And you get an idea, but you don't get the fine print.
Yes.
So you don't know the detail, and them normally say the devil is in the detail. So if you don't know what the substance of it would be, how to sustain it, then when you take it and do it can't be sustained. And that's what is happening. So Reggae Month now.
And as you heard Biggie said, so the awards were in place. I mean, there was so much more that would have happened with this month.
Yes.
The only thing that I see coming out of the month that looks like where we would have gone with it, Biggie, it's the music conference. I don't know. I think we would have gone.
We probably would have gone there, but that was not on our table, to be honest.
Yeah, but it was always on mine.
but the conference.
It was the kind of thing that.
Remember Lloyd Stanbury, the
because
DJ
we
mentioned, had with some other folks had the conference before.
That's true.
Right.
That's true. That is true. And as we claim Lloyd, everything that Lloyd does is coming out of Area FM. It don't matter whether I come out of Area FM, yes or no, it's Eric. So good morning, Mr. Lloyd Stanbury. We own you, we claim you,
yes.
We own you. Yes. Yeah. But where would you want to see it go though? I mean, I know I'm joking.
I think it was called the CMC, was it?
Caribbean Music Conference.
Yeah.
Yes, CMC. Yeah.
What we are looking at, KABU, is that to make Reggae Month into an international staple and build it out with some signature events, build it out with a launch, because we are looking seriously at the orange economy, culture and the creative industry. So Reggae Month, what we are looking at is to be the launch of the reggae year. So every year you have this massive celebration in Jamaica from February. Launch it out into a world tour for our artists, because I believe that the shows that should be kept in Jamaica during February should have all the icons, all the upcoming spread across the month. And just like how Intimate, Vibes Cartel, Freedom Street, Rebel Salute, those sort of events, you must have them in our Reggae Month. I believe also that what we need in Jamaica is just like you have the Hollywood Walk of Fame, where you have the stars placed on the sidewalk of these artists.
Isn't that in development now?
No, what I talk about is not that for Jamaica. What I'm talking about is the World Reggae Park on Navy Island. So we're dedicating an island to reggae.
But Navy Island was part of the what you call it again, the FinSac. Navy Island was properly FinSacked, I think,
No, Navy Island is owned by the government. It's under the auspices of the Port Authority now.
Do you remember when Navy Island was FinSacked?
No, I never know that Navy Island was under FinSac. I know that they used to have some guest houses over there when we used to go to school. And I think the Mazookas, they had some business over there for a time.
I totally forgot that we had a call from Oh my, listen, we had a call just now and I don't know if it was online still. My sister, if you're there, can you send her through if she's there? Because I think she heard us, what she wanted to comment on was the discussion on Usain Bolt and the way he's treated, because she's written a book called Too Black to Succeed. The FinSAC experience. So, I don't know. We don't have time. It is 6 minutes to 10. Big A came in at the same time, and that is what threw us. So we don't have time. We'll talk about it another time. But Navy Island was part of that whole process, though. Remember, we used to be over there where you have to get a passport to go over there. Boats were running. You know, remember them days?
Go over there upon the ferry. Yeah, man.
So who bought it then? Who was in charge of it at the time when they gave us a passport and you take a boat and you go over?
I never know what a passport. I know we used to pay if you go over upon the boat. I think we used to pay $50 for go over upon the ferry.
That's an informal thing. But formally,
no man, that was formally.
It was acquired by a bank, you know, one of these banks or insurance companies that ultimately got FinSAC. I'm just saying.
I'm not sure, but what I can tell you, who owns it now?
Who owns it? We the
it's
people?
Owned by the government now under the auspices of the Port Authority.
So does that mean the Crown or we the people?
Well, I consider the Crown as we the people.
Oh really? Since when?
Yeah, man, it's our land, and that's why I believe in land reparation. But that's another argument, because if we're going to talk about reparation, the government of Jamaica must start giving us some of the lands.
Right. So what's on paper is one thing.
Right.
But what happens in reality is another thing. So because we deal with the isness of things here, so when they say the Crown, they're not talking about us.
They're talking about the government.
They talk about them and them friend.
Right.
So I don't know. So you must know, because you reach out to Portland, you probably can't go Navy Island. But people like me and Big A we can't just go over to Navy Island.
Yeah, man. If you take a boat,
call you first.
If you take a boat now, you can go over there.
No, I bet you wait for calling and say, Colin, we're there Portland. Now we reach Navy Island.
I'm a line up a boat, man, for carry over there.
That's the thing. You're not supposed to line up nothing. We're supposed to just go.
No, there's no system right now to go over there because it is unutilized. It is just lying there idly. Nothing is happening there right now.
So what would you want to...
So we want to put a World Reggae Park on Navy Island, a 5-star reggae hotel, where you name the rooms after the reggae artists. You put a statue of all reggae icon around the island. You digitize those statues, so when you go over there, you can either watch the content of who the statue is made of. You can download digital memorabilia from the statue, make marijuana legal on the island. You twin the island also as a film studio, and you put in a state-of-the-art editing suite over there and a state-of-the-art reggae studio. So it is you also build a venue, because the island is 78 acres, you know. So you put a 2,000 or 3,000 reggae venue over there that you can have your constant reggae concert on the island. So you build out as an attraction.
What do you think about that, Big A? It sounds like a brilliant idea to me.
You build it out as an attraction.
The logistics might give us a problem, but conceptually it sounds like a solid idea.
Man, pull a Damien Crawford by you.
If them want to take it, take it, KABU. What I want to see is that done in Port Antonio. And then Port Antonio would start see growth generated right in our midst.
So Papa Kervin says, blessed greetings. I think the government should give him, that's Usain Bolt, 12 years tax-free on all his income if they can't find his money. Right.
That's an idea, but something has to be done. Something has to be done. That's something that you'd have to look into. Would that work out to anything substantial? Because maybe it wouldn't, you know? But
all right, it's 2 minutes to 10 o'clock, so we're not going to even take a call. I'm so sorry. And okay, so Busy Campbell, hey Busy. All right, so lots of comments, and I'm not able to get through. Moti Morris, I see you there. K-Dot, my brother. Akeem says, I agree. It's totally with, except me believe Mark Golding will do better. Most PNP will not cop to saying that the PNP had he's saying that the PNP had, somewhat to do with the fact that we've lost so many beaches, and that needs to be acknowledged.
And what happened, under the last PNP administration, no, the one before, PJ Patterson. Remember, that was the time when we had the Spanish invasion. So most of the Spanish hotels were built at that time, and they were built on the beaches. We can't get away from that.
And Paul Ward says, hi, KABU, the Beach Control Act allows pre-1956 encroachments to stand. We have been talking about the Beach Control Act ad nauseum in this space. This is basically what is being challenged now by Jabem. And unless we attack the Beach Control Act, which is being weaponized against the people of Jamaica, nothing will change. We can talk until the cows come home, but it is what it is. So it is and this is where Mark Golding comes in. Somebody needs to introduce a bill in the House to repeal the Beach Control Act. Is that so hard to do?
As it relates to that level of legislation, KABU, I have not gone into detailed research on that, to how hard that would be. But as I said earlier about the Blue Lagoon, legislation, it is our MPs that make the legislation. So whatever needs to be done can be done. And I got a call, a message while we were on. The raftsmen from Blue Lagoon, they are saying that they are now granted license, but they have no space on the Blue Lagoon to make back any rafts or anything like that. So what they are saying that they got license till the license expire, and they weren't able to use those licenses at Blue Lagoon. So something still need to fix.
Because the Blue Lagoon, in terms of the access to the Blue Lagoon,
right? And
the people only have access to the sea. Not
and remember, there's a beach. There's a beach just before you go down there, you know, where them used to have the boats and the rafts.
Right on the other side.
Normal, right? The road going down to the lagoon at the left. There's a little beach there where some cars used to park and things.
Right.
Them, it does sound like them have access to this, so them can't make back no raft. So the license have been now expired and they have not raft.
So what to do where do we go from here, Kirsten community? This is how we have to say goodbye. Mr. Bigay is here and we've already had our little chit chat.
Thank you, KABU.
Anything else left, Mr. Bigay?
No, not at this time.
All right. Anybody know Kip Rich?
Yeah, I know Kip Rich.
What's the situation?
You heard the song? You heard the song?
I heard the song, yes. I see why them call him still.
No. I'm talking about the song he has done after the fact. I'm not talking about
the one after that. When we had the studio, the Bigay.
He can't play it on radio? Play it, make me hear now.
Yeah, man. That one they can play, man.
Maybe listen to it now, Bigay.
Yeah, man.
Kip Rich, you know, we have a lot to talk about as a nation.
Spoke with Bert Samuels about it yesterday morning.
What did he say?
His idea is that, yes, there's freedom of speech, but just like you can't go into a nightclub full of people and ball out fire when there is no fire.
Yes.
You know, so we have to be careful.
Which part would that be? Serato? Yeah, and I see the point that
yeah, so he's saying that it is in the Constitution that you can't incite violence, and one of the new thing in the Constitution now is that you can't glorify a gang, because a gang is now seen as a criminal organization, and therefore you have to be careful of the lyrics. And what he's also saying is that who writes the song, who records the song, who sings the song, who plays the song, all of you would have issues with that part of the Constitution.
Very interesting, and really and truly, as a nation, we have to have a conversation. We have to have a conversation. And, as Queen Africa called it again, truth of it. What the word with Queen and thing they use? They don't use conversation. They use what the word began. The album name so too.
She create a word. She coined.